Hi everybody, welcome to the Matt Weston 365 YouTube channel and another episode of FlowBites, small bite-sized videos that are designed to help get you through your day-to-day issues that you encounter when you're creating flows in Power Automate. Today what we're going to be looking at is recurrence with events. So we're going to build on what we looked at in our previous events video, which is where we looked at getting the events for today. And now we're going to start to look at how we can identify whether an event is recurrent or whether it's standalone. What we'll also look at in this video is how we can then get the recurrence information so we can start to determine how it's going to repeat. Then what we'll look at in future episodes is how we can break that apart so that we can then use the recurrence to then get the recurring events that are happening on a particular day. But first of all, let's go back to SharePoint. Let's go and have a look at our events list. So first of all, let's go back to our SharePoint list where we've got our events calendar, and let's just remind ourselves how we can go and create some events in here. And the first one I'm going to create is just a single day. So there's going to be no recurrence, it's just going to be a single event. So I'm going to go and quickly create this. So let's put some very basic information into here. I'm going to leave it between 10 and 11, that's absolutely fine. And at that point, I'm just going to hit save. So this event will happen once, it won't recur. So let's just go and grab that event first of all from Flow, just so we can go and have a look at the JSON that comes back from the get items. So if I come to my Flow, here's one I've already got created, and this is called get events. I'm just going to use a manual trigger to start off with. And all I want to do on here is go and get items. So like I've said in previous videos, get items is one of the most useful actions that you might actually use because it's very configurable, and I can now start to get a number of items, and I can also filter on there as well. But for what I'm going to do for now is I'm just going to go and grab that one entry from the list. And as always, because events is still a classic list, I need to go and enter custom value, and I need to type events into here. Hopefully at some point that will become modern. And from there, I'm just going to save that, and let's go and test and run it. Perfect, so that's run. So let's go and get items. So in here, I've got the one item. So I'm just going to grab that out, so I'm going to bring that into Notepad. Just so that we can paste it into here. So I can see Happy Monday. And what I'm interested in is event type. Because at the moment, event type is 0. So I'm going to leave that there for a moment. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go now create a recurring event as well, just so that we can see the difference between what happens with this event type from a single event through to a recurring event. So let's go back to SharePoint again, and this time I'm going to do another new event. Let's put this one between 12 and 1, and this is going to be Monday party hour. And we're going to go and recur this. Now the options that I've got a number of different options available in SharePoint for the actual recurrence. So it could be daily, it could be weekly, monthly or yearly, and there are additional options around that. We'll investigate that in further episodes. But for now, I'm going to go and make this a weekly event. I'm going to make it recur every week on a Monday. And I'm going to go and save that. So now I've got my standard event, and I've also got my Monday party hour, which if I look next Monday is there, and the Monday after, so it's recurring. Now this was always something that's really difficult to get hold of when we're looking at how to do this programmatically within SharePoint. So let's go and see what we can do in terms of interacting with these two events but using Flow. So if I come back to Flow again, I'm going to go and run the same flow once more. Okay, and now that's run, I'm just going to go and grab my events list again. So let's go and create another notepad. Okay, so this time I can see, here's my Monday party hour. Let's just pull that across. Okay, so now we've got side by side. So I've got my Happy Monday. I've got my Monday party hour. This time event type is 0 on the one that's not recurring. On a recurring event, my event type is 1. So first of all, if I want to get all dates that aren't recurring, then I can do a filter on that event type to be event type equals 0. Let's go and try that. So let's come back to my get items. Let's go down and let's update my filter. Now, what I need to do with my filter query is I need to first of all supply the name of the fields that I want to base the filter on. And that was the event type. So in here, I'm going to type event type. I'm going to say that it needs to equal, and it needs to equal 0. So that's only going to pull back all the items where there's no recurrence. So let's go and save that. And let's test. Okay, cool. So it's run. And let's go and open one more notepad again. And I can see here that I've got my Happy Monday. I've got my event type equals 0. And so I've managed to get all the just the list items from there that don't have a recurring event. So that's part 1. But what happens if I want to start working with recurring events? So I need to now do a little bit of extra work. Let's get rid of that for a moment. So let's come back to edit. So I'm going to change this to event type equals 1 this time. So we already know that this is going to pull back my recurring events. Let's go and test that again. And let's just have a look at the additional JSON that I actually get from this to see if there's anything I can actually work with. So let's go and grab that again. I've actually got a couple of recurring items in here by the looks of it. So here's my Monday party hour. Now I can see that my event type is 1, so it's recurring. I can see the start date, which was today. I can also see that it's got an end date way into the future because it will iterate something around 930 times before it thinks I'm not actually going to recur anymore. But what I'm actually missing is any type of recurrence information that allows me to really determine what the recurrence is. Now, I've tried a number of different things around this. I've tried to calculate the difference between the start date and the end date, divide that by the magic 930 something, and then try and figure out, but that was a lot of work. It wasn't really giving me the information that I needed. Plus, if I ever recurred on multiple days in a single week, then it also wouldn't allow me to find that. So what I'm going to show you now is just how to get that recurrence information. And for that recurrence information, I first of all need to go back to Flow. And now I need to go and create another action in here, which is going to do a HTTP request, because the recurrence information isn't typically available on the list item that gets returned. I have to make another call to SharePoint, but I have to use the SharePoint APIs to go and get the recurrence information, and then we can further pull that apart to determine how we want to use it. So let's go and add another action. And I'm going to filter down to my SharePoint connector first of all. Let's go SharePoint. And in here, I will see send a HTTP request to SharePoint. Now, if you've not used this before, this is a really useful action because I don't have to worry about going to get an authorization token in order to be able to hit that HTTP endpoint. This is also a standard connector. So unlike the other HTTP connectors where I need a premium license or assigned, I don't need that for the send HTTP request to SharePoint. So this is a really useful little action. So let's go and configure it. And I'm going to go and select my site. My method is going to be a get because I actually want to get some information back from SharePoint for me to use for the rest of my flow. But then the next part is building up the URI so that I can actually build up the information that I want. And generally, all the APIs will start with an API. It then gets scoped to the web, to the lists, and I need to identify where I'm getting the information from. So I'm going to use get by title. So I'm going to identify my list by the title that it's been given, and it's just called events. And from there, I want to bring back the items. But I don't want to bring back everything. I want to really select what I want. So I'm going to go and apply a filter to this. And I'll put a link up in a moment which will actually give you a lot more information about this. But if you ever need to go and find information about the the SharePoint REST APIs, then there's plenty of documentation available on docs.microsoft.com. They are very good, and that's generally where I go for help as well. So I'm going to go for a filter, and I'm going to say where the event type is equal to 1. So that's pretty much like what we've just done in get items, where I've filtered down just to the ones that are that I'm interested in. But what I also want to do is select some specific information from here. And I'm going to go and select recurrence data. So that's going to be the information about how it recurs. I'm going to go and get the master series item ID, which is basically going to just get the initial item back that I started the series from. Let's get the event type, the title, actually I don't need a space there, and the duration. So I'm going to pull some additional pieces of information back here, but that effectively will equate to different pieces of metadata on my list item. So let's save that. And let's go and run. Okay, so now that's run, you can see here I've actually got some very, very different metadata being pulled out here. So let's go and pull that out into Notepad again. So because I told it exactly what I wanted to be pulled out, I've got the information that I didn't have before. So I've still got things like the URI, I've still got things like the title, the event type, so I can see that it's 1, the duration. But what's really interesting here is that I've got the recurrence. Now that's the important one, is that I'm getting that recurrence information because it's telling me what the rule is. So I can see here that the first day of the week is the Monday. It's repeating weekly on a Monday and every 1 week on a Monday. So if I was repeating this fortnightly, I would see that as a 2. If it was a Monday, Tuesday and a Wednesday, then I would see Monday equals true, Tuesday equals true, and so on. So that's going to give me some XML that I can then start to parse to figure out what the recurrence is. And what we'll do is in the next episode, we'll look at how we can start to use that to our advantage, and then start to break out and start working with those recurrences so we can get any events that are taking place on that particular day. So as you can see, working with dates isn't the easiest thing to do anyway. But if you start to throw things like recurrence into the mix, then it becomes very, very complicated. And that's hopefully what we're going to try and break down over the next few videos as well. So just remember that you can easily identify whether an event is a recurrent one or not just by looking at the event type. If it's 0, then it's a standalone. If it's 1, then it's going to recur. But if you want the recurrence information, then you need to make a HTTP request to SharePoint to get that recurrence information back, which is going to bring some XML back, and we can then use that to start to break apart and identify what each of the future dates are. So we'll look at that in our future episodes of FlowBites. For now, I hope that's started to help you get to grips with working with dates. If you've got any questions, please do feel free to ask. Either post a comment, reach me on Twitter, reach me on LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to give you a hand. Until next time, stay well, and we'll speak again soon.